All right, so I am recording my document camera right now, like so my hand is getting recorded, but the Zoom is not, just so you guys know what's going on. So, all right, so on here I have HB, 2H, 4H, 6H, and then in the other direction we're going to have to write 4 labels here. It's going to be 2B, 4B, 6B, ebony. Right here. So HB, yellow Ticonderoga School pencil. I'm going to create a bevel point by shading really, really dark. And then as I get that nice bevel point, I'm going to start using less pressure. And I can do little ovals. I want to go lighter. And I want to hide those pencil strokes. Really, really light, really, really faint. And then you can leave it like that. You could try to clean up your edges if you wanted to. You don't have to. Sometimes it just makes more of a smudgy mess. That's going to bother me, but that's okay. So there we have the HB pencil, and I had a sharp pencil point. I wore it down to a nice bevel point, chisel point, however you want to call that. You can see it right there with the way the light's hitting it. And I went lighter, and none of my pencil strokes should show if I cover the edges. Like if I cover those edges, look at how smooth that is, right? Now, with whatever pencils you have, so I have a 6H, I want you to try that with any pencils that you have. Ooh, scratchy. Them in, so you can do them in any order. Just pick up a pencil, read the label, and try it. And if you don't have the other pencils at home, you're just noticing. I want you just to like make observations about what are you noticing about the ones that I'm doing. Anything that you've noticed, because obviously I'm having you do, I mean, it's a very simple task, right? We're just going dark to light, creating a bevel point with different pencils. So obviously I want you to notice something. In the chat box, go ahead and type to me, what have you noticed visually about the pencils, the size of the pencils, the hardness of the pencils, the darkness or lightness of the pencils? So would you just throw in the chat box anything that you've noticed? And even if you don't have the pencils at home and it's just from watching, just visually look at the pencils and you can see different things. They sound different. Okay. And I am looking for participation on there. So please, if you have not written anything in the chat box, please go write something. What is an observation, a visual, a sound, something that you noticed about the different pencils? Let me put this up here. I'm going to take a little picture of just my screen. Oh, there, I just took a picture of that. Like if I look at this right here, You're right, it is kind of chalky. Somebody said it's kind of chalky, and I can actually see, look, my fingers are actually getting smudge marks from what came off of the outside. I didn't even touch the rectangle. It is kind of chalky. Nice. It keeps it getting darker as we get to the higher number. Yes, the 2B, wasn't it super smooth? Somebody said it's really smooth. You're right. The ones on the right are more black than the HB. Yes. The harder you press, the darker the shade, right? So if we press harder, we get darker shades up there. The 2H is really light. And, hold on, I lost my place. And so is the 6H. Yes. The ebony is darker than the other pencils. I think the H's are lights and the B's are dark. Yes. The lower the number on the, lower the number, the lighter on the left side. Yes, the lower, okay, well, lower the number. So here's the way I'd like for you to think about these pencils. This is how it makes sense for my brain. For an art teacher, I have kind of a math brain. So the way it makes sense for me, and I had to circle it, is, and I'm closing the chats now. Yes, thank you, Zach. The HB is a combination of both sides. You're right, it's right in the middle. So the way I'd like for you to think about it, and I hope this helps you, because I know you probably learned this in like elementary school, positive and negative numbers. So if you think of the HB as your 0, that's your starting place, right? That's like our standard, regular, everyday pencil. The bigger the H, the harder the pencil and the lighter the pencil. So a 6H is going to be hard and light with the color, which sounds funny. It seems like, oh, if it's harder, it's darker, but it's not. The harder pencils are the lighter ones. The ebony pencils are soft, fuzzy, grainy, and they are dark. So if this is a 0, and these are the negative numbers, the farther away we get, the more it has the qualities. And H stands for hard, and B stands for black. Okay? So now, if we look really close up, look at how grainy that is. Okay? And then if we look at this, it was hard, but it's also really smooth. Like, you can't see much texture of the paper here, whereas over here, look at how textured that is. Okay? So this crazy thing happens where even though the pencils here are lighter, look at how light that is. And I pressed pretty hard there. You can use harder pencils, lighter pencils, to make dark pencils darker. Watch. If I take this and I go over this with ebony, and you know what? I'm going to do one right below it with 6B. Yep. And you can see the texture of the paper, and I'm doing lots of layering onto here. No pencil strokes are showing. Okay, clearly that one is lighter and that one is darker. Take one of your H pencils. It could be your HB or it could be your 2H, which is really light. I'm going to use that one. Your 2H or your 6H. I'm going to use the 2H because I think that's what most of you have at home. And watch. So if I had, hold on, this was ebony and this was 6B, okay, right here and right here. I am going to take my 2H and I'm going to go down the middle. Watch. Because it gets rid of the texture of the paper and it smashes all that ebony pencil into your paper. Look, the light pencil made the dark pencil darker. It's weird, right? So there you go. You can see all that pencil strokes there, but if you just look at it from a distance, that spot definitely looks darker than there. So now I'm just going to use a thin Sharpie and I'm going to draw a straight line and then about an inch away. So that's not quite an inch, that's too far, that's too much work. So about an inch away, which visually looks like that, okay? I'm just going to draw another straight line, okay? And then I want to make squares. So here, if I do this, okay, that's too skinny, that's too wide. A square is approximately that. Please make squares however many squares you can get. All the way down. And if you have a ruler, you can just perfectly trace your ruler and you can just do a mark every single inch starting at 0 and then do 1, 2, 3 all the way to 11. And then once you have those marks, you make your squares. And if they're not squares, they're rectangles, that's okay. You have 11 perfect spaces this way. So whatever we have, we make work. We just flex in 2020. That's all. We just gotta make it work. So as long as you're trying, I am happy. Okay. Let me see how many spaces I end up with. I don't know what I'm going to end up with. I didn't have like an exact number that it needed to be for this bottom one. Yeah, let me give myself one more. All right, so I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spaces. Up here I have 11 spaces, here I have 10 spaces. So no matter how many spaces you ended up with, 10 or 11 or 9, if that's what happened, it's okay. Please mark the one all the way on the right as 100%. Okay? 100%. And then I want you to do 90% and 80% and 70 and work your way down. And then I would have a 0. And on this one I have 11 spaces. So I can do 10, 20, and I can actually have a space for 0. I'm missing my 0 on this one, but that's okay. Let me check the chat box, make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, good. If you have any questions, throw it in because I have the chat box open and I will be closing it again. So I'm using my ebony pencil and I'm going to use all different shading techniques and fill in the box perfectly right into the corners. And we want to hide those pencil strokes. All right, so I'm trying to make it 100% black, or as black as I can with the pencils. If you don't, then go as dark as you can with your regular school pencil. Okay, just as dark as you can get it. So yours can still be solid. It just won't be the same color, just because the actual pencil color itself is black versus like a gray. But it's not that different. Like if I bring this up to here, I mean that's dark. That's darker, but you'll make it work. It's okay. Okay, so because I'm pressing hard on this and I still am getting the texture of the paper, sorry, my camera is, I gotta lower my camera because I had it way up high for the explosion book so you could see everything. So let me bring it closer. There we go. Because you can still see the texture of the paper, what can I do, folks? How do I get rid of that texture?
Blend it.
Blend it with what? With itself or something else?
Something else.
Okay, so one of my lighter pencils. So I can just use my regular old school pencil or my 2H, but I just want to take that dust that I had on my fingers before, and I want to smash it into all those little textures of the paper. The tooth, it's called. I'm using it and getting it into the tooth of the paper. I want to show you something. I'm going to take my pencil and do random scribbles right now, and then I want you to watch what happens when the light hits it. Look, you can see my scribble marks. So please make sure that whatever you do, your final top coat, it's like nail polish, your final top coat, you are going consistently, consistent ovals, consistent verticals, consistent horizontals, I don't care. But just make it so it looks neat when you're done. And when the light hits it, we want to try to have it look all the same. And you can even do more ebony on top. Well, that looks better. There we go. And now for 90%, I am going to use my ebony pencil first. And look, I could just be like a little messier now. I can go right over the top of my 100%. Look. So I've got my ebony pencil, but I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to go over to my 6B and go right over the top of it. And if you're using your yellow Ticonderoga pencil, that's okay too. So I'm going to take this, take my nice bevel point, and I want it to be almost black, 90%. That's pretty dark. Change directions, hide those pencil strokes, make them even. And now I can press really hard with this because the 6B, it's just not as dark as ebony. It just can't be. And notice I'm going over it and over it and over it, back and forth. And if you are doing this with a yellow Ticonderoga pencil, then it's going to be like this. I'm working fast. I'm not working as neat just because it takes time to work neat. Okay, and then if I do this on 100% too, and I do that with a bevel point, right? I've got this nice bevel point here. Now I can hold up and use the sharper point, and I can color this one darker. So that's how you do it if you only have a Ticonderoga pencil there, or a yellow, or an HB pencil. Look, you can still make it work. Into that one. Bummer. Oh well. That's what I get for rushing. Okay. So now for 80%, I'm going to take my 6B. If you remember, I put ebony underneath this one. I'm not going to this time. I'm just going to use my 6B by itself, my bevel point, which is soft, not sharp and pointy, and I'm going to do my 80%. Clean up that edge. Okay, so far 190 and 80 are pretty forgiving. We do have to start being more careful as we work into our lighter ones. Okay. I am going to switch over, and by the way, there's not like a rule you must use a 2B on a 70%. That's not it at all, because you can use your yellow HB pencil on all of them, right? I'm just trying to give you ways that like work faster, smarter, easier, and understand like why the heck do they have all these different kinds of pencils? So at least now you're learning why. Okay, so I'm going to take my 2B. I want to make sure I have a bevel point. If I'm not sure, guess what? I can just go back up here to this and go over it again and make sure I have a bevel point. Yeah, that's nice and soft there. Look at that. Nice. So now I can take that, go on to my 70%, and I'm going to work slower this time. More layers. And as some of you noticed, the 2B pencil is really smooth. Okay. What do y'all think of my 70%? Does that look like a consistent jump, or does it look like I need to do something?
It's kind of light.
It's way too light. So I need to go in darker. A fair amount darker, actually. I'm using a nice bevel point, a chisel point, but I am pressing fairly hard with my 2B pencil right now. I'm so glad I got you all stocked up on some supplies before we went home. If you don't have supplies, please send me an email. Tell me what you do or don't have out of like the stuff should have. And if you're not sure what you should have, then email saying I might have supply be able to do this stuff with us. I want you to have fun with art, and you'll have more fun if you have more. So So even 60%, remember we're talking about black versus white in terms of the value on here. So 60% is still closer to black. It's a little bit more than halfway. Not much, but a little bit. Oh, I see there's something in the chat box. Let me look. So I think you all can see how we're going about finishing this up. 10% change each time. If you didn't get down to a 0, here's what you're going to do. You know what? Whoops. I'm going to make a jump. Here's the issue. When things get too dark, we have to erase them. That's why I made sure to really start with 100%. Because I'd rather it was too light and then you just keep adding and adding and adding to it. But if your light ones get too dark, you have to just erase it and try it again. Alright, so make sure I have a nice bevel point. My 10% is there. 2H, I'm just going to do the lightest coat on top of it. I think it can go just a smidge darker, but remember it's still 90% white here. This is still going to be 80% white. I started to go too dark. I get frustrated too, and I enjoy it at the same time. I totally get it. It's both. Find my bevel point off to the side, and then gentle. Somebody said, it's okay, but it kind of bores me over time. Yep, but this is like, it's like when you're doing that basketball practice because you want to play in the game. Sometimes the drills and the warm-ups and all of that stuff, like with your sports, probably get a little bit redundant and a little bit boring, but the game is exciting. So this is like the drills ahead of time. So that way when you're actually drawing, you're like, oh, I have the skill set. I can actually like go in and really render something to look 3D. Okay. I'm still using my 2H. I'm going to go in and do my 30% here, little ovals. I do a lot of ovals. They're small ovals, but they're ovals. So that way I can overlap and do short ones and long ones. And I can turn this. So remember, if you're going to make a mistake in terms of the darkness, make it too light, because you can always make it darker. But if you need to make it lighter, you have to erase it and start over, and then that's even more frustrating. I'm almost going too dark in this 40%. Do you guys see my pace change? I just started rushing, and you could see it in my neatness. It just doesn't pay off. All right, folks, unless you have any questions, I'm going to let you go. So I'll do this. I might have to erase and redo that, or I have to make that one darker. Something needs to get fixed in here. All right, I'm going to do my 50%.
So we don't do.
Yep, go ahead and get them all done, and then take a picture and turn it in. Have a good day, folks. Yeah, what's your question?